words. They don't just communicate thoughts. They reveal the hidden things in our hearts. They don't just communicate ideas. They create worlds. The mouth and the words we say are a creative force that is not only used all the time, but everywhere we go. Our words are the very essence of how the Creator made us. Join us as we discover the essence of man and the power of speech.
Hey, welcome to day 2 as we discover the essence of man and the power of speech. You know, yesterday we talked about what Lashon Hora is, which is evil speech, an evil tongue, and that it's not necessarily speaking a lie about somebody, but it's also speaking the truth about somebody that is negative, okay? And what you're doing is you're impacting the reputation of who they are. Sometimes it's based upon your opinion. Sometimes it's based upon other people's opinion. But the bottom line is we don't need to speak negative about people. You know, the 2 commandments, love God with all your heart, mind, and soul. And the second one is likened unto the first, love your neighbor as yourself. Well, part of loving your neighbor as yourself is not speaking evil of them, even if it is the truth. And there's certain times when Lashon Hora is permitted, but we'll get into that later. But mainly what we see is that it's evil speech that's not necessarily a lie, but it's even the truth. Now, here's the thing about it. When you understand the concepts of evil speech, okay, you really begin to get an understanding of the fact that it has cosmic repercussions. And what I mean by that is, you know, you could say something to somebody that just might be your opinion. Maybe you don't like the way they do something. You know, it's not a lie. You just don't like the way they do it. Well, the problem is, that's evil speech. Then all of a sudden, that begins to hurt that person that you spoke evil about. Well, guess what? That affects their attitude. That affects their life, which in turn affects other people's life, which in return, those people affect other people, and it's a snowball effect. Just think, one evil tongue can affect thousands of people. Not even just thousands, millions. You don't believe me? Let's look at our media today. Let's face it, there's a lot of lies on TV. But there's also some truth on TV, and some of that truth is very negative. And it really doesn't have to be said. Nevertheless, look at the division it causes in our nation. So as you can see, negative speech, evil speech, I should say, has very long-lasting cosmic repercussions. And as we said yesterday, you know, you're going to be judged for every idle word that you speak. The next thing you need to understand is the power that you have with your words creates a perception. You're not just exchanging words with somebody. You're creating worlds. You know, sometimes I think when we just get to talking, we just think, we're just talking. But the problem is, we're not just exchanging words with one another. We're actually, you know, communicating seeds that grow in to a forest and literally creates an environment or a world. This is the power of our speech. Whether we realize it or not, this is how we affect people. The next thing you need to understand is what appears to be benign or harmless to you is actually a major factor that determines our relationship with God. Sometimes what we think is just harmless, you know, we think about church things, quote unquote, or biblical things, quote unquote, when we're in church, or maybe we're reading the Bible. But then as we get, in life, and we, involve ourselves in life in general, we don't think about certain things. And then we think, it's not that big of a deal. Or, Lord, forgive me for what I'm about to say. The problem is, if you already know you need forgiveness for saying it, why are you saying it? Okay? This is the problem. And so, your words, the evil speech of talking about people, is showing how your relationship with God is. You're not just speaking evil about people. You're also speaking evil about God. For instance, James says that, we bless God, we curse men. Jesus said, I pray they be one as we are one. Okay? So if you're talking evil about somebody that belongs to God, who's one with God, you're also talking about the God in them. Again, your words have cosmic repercussions. The next thing is, evil speech is so powerful, it can erase, listen to me, it can erase a lifetime of scripture knowledge and also works that have been done in honor of God. Miriam, and we'll get into this, but Miriam got leprosy because of the fact she spoke against Moses. The children of Israel, when God said, go spy out the land which I give you, 10 of them did not make it in. Why? Because they spoke evil against God. The land he gave them, he spoke evil of. And he spoke against the power of God that was able to give it into their hands. And so we see here, these people spent a lifetime believing that the deliverer would come. These people were there watching the seas part. They were there watching manna fall from heaven. They were there with Moses during the tough times and this and that and the other. But you know what? It all got erased and they never got into the promised land because they spoke evil. Think about it. Speaking evil will erase a lot of things. And as we'll find out even scientifically, it affects the mind a lot, to the point you don't retain and remember things the way you should. But just as, evil speech has negative consequences, proper speech has great consequences. There is a rabbi named Villa Goen, and he made this statement. He said, proper speech is the single biggest factor in determining one's portion in the world to come. Now think about that. Proper speech can determine one's portion literally in the world to come. I want to read you something. We read this yesterday, but I think it bears, a necessity, if you will, to read again. Jesus said we would be held accountable for every idle word. It's in Matthew. And he said we would be held accountable for every idle word that we speak. And listen to this. I say to you that every idle word that men shall speak, they shall be given account thereof a day in judgment. For by thy words thou shalt be justified, and by thy words thou shalt be condemned. Now listen to this. Proverbs 18:21 says this: death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it eat the fruits thereof. So here's the thing I want you to understand, is that when you start speaking evil, and when you start speaking negatively about people, it's death. But when you speak the blessing about people, it's life. You eat those fruits thereof, both now and also in the world to come. Think about it. This is the thing about evil speech. It has cosmic repercussions that transcend not only in this world, but the one that is to come. And so it's just not words. They're not just benign. They're not just harmless. They're a powerful creative force. And what we're trying to do in these devotionals is master our mouth so that in the world to come we can stand before God and He'll say, "Well done, thou good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with the little. Now be faithful over much." Hey, thanks for being with me today. And we'll see you tomorrow as we talk more about the essence of man and the power of speech.